Good evening, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Garner for this Tuesday, September the 18th, 2018. Good to have you all here for our first of two shows this week. Here we are on the air about an hour later than planned. You know, funny, we pushed our show back to 10 o'clock last week, and here we are still late. But I'll explain what's going on with that and more in just a few moments. But as always, as we start the show, I remind you all the ways in which you can interact and contribute to our show, have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And of course, you can find us on Facebook to search in the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our fan page once you're on it, and follow us on there so you can interact with us and all that good stuff. All right, so we are on the air a little later tonight. Well, more than a little later, about an hour later than planned. Just got caught up in a few things at home, and also, if you hear me with this, being nasally and my allergies are acting up, that's this time of year, so just bear with me on that. Just got caught up on if you've caught up in a few things at home, and that's that happens. You have a wife and a 8 month, it's not 8 months, almost a 7 month old, so that's kind of what happens. But here we are. On the air here for our first of two shows this week. A couple of little things right off the top. First of all, and more important than anything we're going to talk about tonight, we want to express our thoughts and our prayers to all those impacted by Hurricane Florence over the last week. And to all those that died because of that horrible hurricane, may they rest in peace. And our thoughts and prayers go out to their family, friends, and loved ones. It's been a rough week for the Carolinas, for Virginia, Georgia. A lot of flooding. Just a bad situation. So if you can donate anything, whether it's your time, volunteer, or donate any kind of money or anything you can do to help those people, please do. There's many charities out there. I'm sure you can either even if social media you're seeing notifications about charities to help out with disaster relief. So if you can do that, I encourage you to do that, because they need all the help they can get there. So if you can, please do give. Again, our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody impacted by Hurricane Florence. It's a terrible situation out on the East Coast there, in the South. It's just terrible, and our thoughts and prayers go out to all those impacted. And that's obviously more important than anything we're going to talk about here tonight. But we do have, other things we're going to be talking about as a way to try to escape from the real world, as we always say when we're talking about, much more trivial things compared to some more serious things going on, So we do have a couple other things to kind of talk about off the top here. I mentioned that things are going to be changing with the show in the coming weeks. I said that is very likely that was going to start next week. I don't know if it will yet or not. I don't think it will. It might have to wait another week, but I'll finalize that with you all on Thursday. But I'm thinking right now that we'll probably avoid the big changes until probably the first week of October, which could be problematic, because at the end of October I'll be going away for a week. But we'll figure all that out and get that all ironed out so that we can put our best foot forward. So more on that on Thursday. Or as of right now, just plan that next week will probably be very similar to this week. So nothing imminent as far as the big changes go. So that's the other big piece of news there. The other news is of the normal variety. What's going to be coming up the rest of the week? Well, tonight we got sports, and really all we have to do is baseball and football. We'll pretty much do what we did last week. We'll talk about baseball, talk about football. So we'll do a little college football, do a little NFL. We'll look back at week 2, look ahead to week 3, and then baseball. We'll talk about where the playoffs stand and what's going on tonight during all the games and whatnot. As we now are down to maybe 13, 12 games left in the MLB season. So we'll talk about that too here tonight on tonight's program as well. So got a lot. So not this really. If we're gonna have a late show, it's good that this is the show, because we really don't have a lot that we have to do tonight. So, we should be able to get this in about an hour or so. Thursday, basically just like last week, we're not going to be previewing a wrestling pay-per-view, because the wrestling pay-per-view has already happened. But we will discuss that wrestling pay-per-view that's happened, which was WWE Hell in a Cell. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Raw, SmackDown, all the big WWE headlines, wrestling headlines we'll talk about on Thursday, as well as entertainment, our box office beat. We'll also give you our fall TV preview. We'll talk the Emmys. Give you those statistics from the TV awards. You've all been waiting for all that on Thursday's show. So to make sure you tune in for that. So that's what's coming up this week. And again, next week right now, looks like it's going to be about the same as this week and last week, but I'll let you all know for sure on Thursday. If that's the case, that would mean that we start our new kind of format for the show the first week of October. So we'll have more information on that on Thursday. So that's all the reminders and all the business we had to tend to at the beginning of the show. Now we can get down to business and talking some sports, because that's what we're going to do tonight, is talk sports. And, and that's all we're going to do tonight. So we'll start with the NFL and then go to college football and do MLB just like we did last week. So after what I thought was a very good week one for the NFL. We talked about how the quality of play wasn't still, what it could be, but it was a lot better than previous years in week one. And just had some compelling games, enough upsets sprinkled in with the favorites winning to make it interesting. It was all in all, just a very good week of very good games all around, I thought. And enough drama to go around. Week two, there was a drop-off. Now, was this still a better week two than maybe even last season? Yeah. I think the first 2 weeks of this NFL season are better than easily the last 3 or 4 seasons combined. Okay. I think that a lot of these teams are off to better starts. I think the quality of play is better this year versus the last few years. So yeah, the league is still in a better, and I think in a better place than it's been in the last few years. However, I think what made this week go down in quality and maybe make it a worse week than week one was that some of the teams that did very well in week one, that raised that bar for quality of play, came back down to earth this week and laid eggs. Okay. I won't say Baltimore, because I thought Baltimore played well enough. Let's see. Washington played a terrible game against Indy. Jets laid a huge egg against the Dolphins. Eagles, I thought, did not play very well, even though Tampa's playing way above their level. Let's see. Houston, Tennessee was ugly, but neither one of those teams played well out of the gate. Giants, I thought, played a terrible game. There were some teams that showed you some promise in week one that just did not come out in week two. The Jets under Darnold were great in week one. Week two, Darnold looks okay, but the rest of the team doesn't. Their defense just looked lackadaisical. There was just no energy. So they lose a game to the Dolphins, who are like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of the AFC East, where they just beat a lot of the better teams in their division, and you can't take them lightly, whether it's home or away. And the Jets clearly took them lightly, and you saw the aftermath as Miami wins 20-12. Washington plays Arizona last week. Probably not not a great matchup. It's Arizona's in a down year, so maybe we should have not gone crazy about Washington. But nonetheless, Washington still laid an egg against Indy. I give Indy's defense credit. Offensively, I thought they were great, but I thought they looked great in week one. But I really didn't think Indy's defense did anything spectacular to shut the Washington Redskins down to only 9 points. I thought Washington helped them out a lot. So Washington drops back down to earth and plays an ugly game, loses 21-9. Philly, I thought, even though they only lost by 6, played a terrible game. Terrible game. And offensively, they're struggling. They were struggling in the preseason. But last week, they showed a little bit of improvement, and then they went right back down the tubes this week against Tampa. Tampa's playing with Fitzpatrick way above level. That's going to come back. That's going to come crashing down the earth soon. There's no way that continues. But to do it against the Eagles, even at home, is impressive. So Tampa gets a very, very shocking 27-21 win. Who would have thought Tampa would be 2-0 at this point? So those are a few of the teams that, the Giants in Sunday Night Football played the Dallas Cowboys and just played terrible. And look, if you thought that offensive line was going to be better, you're wrong. That offensive line is terrible. Now it's starting to get injury depleted, which is going to make it even worse. Dallas handled that front line no problem. They took what the defense gave them. They put up a 20 spot and beat the Giants 20-13. And it's just an ugly game. And look, that's how Dallas is going to play this year. Their defense is good enough. They're going to try to win ugly. You saw that after week one that's probably the way they're going to have to play, and that's what they did in week two, and that's why they win the game at home against the Giants. So a couple of teams I just mentioned that just came crashing down to earth in week two, and kind of dropped that bar of quality down as a whole. Now there were some teams that played terrible in week one that I thought played much better. Detroit in the game against San Francisco, I thought played very well, very well. Even though they lost 30-27, they thought they played a much better game. Defensively, they're never going to be that great at it, but I mean, it's going to be about their offense. But I thought they did great in that game. But San Francisco gets a big win there. Detroit's a tough loss, and they're 0-2. I thought the Vikings played better this week. We'll talk more about the Clay Matthews thing later on. Green Bay, I thought, played better as well as a whole, both on offense and defense. It ends up in a tie. So for the first time, and I know I saw the statistic, but I can't remember what it was. But for the first time, it's got to be at least 3 decades. The NFL season starts with at least one game having a tie the first 2 weeks, which is crazy. Crazy. So that was one of the better games of the weekend, and both teams I thought played better than their week one performances. I thought that the Rams played better in week two. Now, granted, playing Arizona, who made Washington look good, but I thought they played better. You could just see it in the performance. 34-0 spot they put on the Arizona Cardinals, so good big win for them. One of the best games of the weekend, New England, Jacksonville. I thought New England played a little bit better than they played in week one, even though they lost. I thought Jacksonville on offense played much better this week. Defensively, they were just the same as they were in week one, which is great. Jacksonville really just cut up the New England Patriots, who made a big trade, which we'll talk about later on as well. Yeah, it's a big and that's a statement win for Jacksonville, coming off of their loss to the Patriots in the AFC Championship. Many people felt like they should have won that game. They come back and get their revenge, and now they're 2-0. So a big win for them. Denver beats Oakland 2019. I thought both those teams played better, not great, but better. I think Denver is showing you to be much better than you probably would have thought they'd be, and Oakland, I think, is showing signs that they might be better than you thought they were. So. All in all, not too bad there. I thought the Bears played a much better offensive game on Monday Night Football. They win 24-17 over Seattle, who I thought played, despite the fact they played some ugly offensive football. I thought the fact they were only down by 7 in this game was a testament to their defense and their experience, because otherwise any other team would have been folded in that game. This offense was terrible. Any other team would have folded. But the Bears' defense is great with Khalil Mack now. So, Bears are going to give teams some fits this year, and they gave Seattle some fits. But, yeah, it's a nice win for the Bears coming off the loss in week one to the Packers. And it's a tough loss for Seattle, who I think will struggle this year. But, they're staying competitive. So that's hey, you just give them that. Tennessee and Houston, I think both teams have played really bad out of the stretch. I think if you're Houston, you got to be very worried about Deshaun Watson. I really do. I think I'd be very worried about Deshaun. He has not looked good at all this season so far. It looks like a major drop-off from last year with pre-injury. So that's something to be concerned about. And Tennessee gets a big 20-17 upset win over Houston. And Houston's got to get this thing together, because they're struggling out of the gate. And Tennessee is too, but they just got to get the win. Another good game this weekend was Carolina-Atlanta. Carolina suffers a tough loss to Atlanta, 31-24. Atlanta, I thought, played much better than they did against the Eagles, especially on offense. Carolina, I thought, played better both ways, but just didn't do enough. So it's one of those better played games that you saw this weekend, and I thought both teams played well. It's a tough loss for Carolina. One of the more impressive showings of the weekend was Kansas City, who has been impressive for 2 weeks straight behind Mahomes, who has 10 touchdowns already. They are lighting up their opponents in the first 2 weeks. Their defense isn't doing a lot, but they're doing their thing, and they beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, I should say, 42-37. The Steelers are not playing well at all offensively. I thought they played much better this week, but they're still defensively, they're just not getting after. And you could tell that the stuff with I'm blanking on his name. My apologies. Wow. Le'Veon Bell is this, and all the problems in the locker room are hurting them, because now there's talk that Antonio Brown wants to be traded. Things are just not going well in Pittsburgh, and it's starting to show up in the performance, even though offensively I thought they had played very well on Sunday. Buffalo continued to struggle. They're going to have a long year. Chargers beat them 31-20. It's not much you can say. Buffalo's just terrible right now. I don't know what they messed up. All the momentum they had off of last year. All of it. They traded Tyrod Taylor. They decided to draft Josh Allen. They only played Josh Allen week 1. They played terrible in week 1. Buffalo's a mess. That's all I can say about it. The Browns play another tough, competitive game, but still don't come out with the win. This time they actually get lost, though, as they lose to the New Orleans Saints 21-18. They held the Saints down. You got to give them credit. They stayed in this game. And the Saints have got to start to get going here because for 2 weeks they're not played good football. But the Browns have done well. Hey, look, they've been in both games. They tied the first week. They lose by 3 the second week. You got to give them credit. And a big rivalry game on Thursday Night Football. Cincinnati beats Baltimore 34-23. Cincinnati looks like they're on a mission this year to prove themselves. They've looked very good, especially offensively through week 2. And Baltimore took us a little bit of a step back defensively. Offensively, they're still pretty good, but defensively took a little bit of a step back in week 2. So all in all, it ends up being a fairly uneven week 2. Couple quality games among the DRAC, but for the most part, it wasn't a great week. It's better than the last couple of years have been in week 2, but it's not saying much. And a couple teams fell back down to earth. Some teams played better in week 2. So all in all, it's a mixed bag, but more on the negative side and the positive side than it was last week. So yeah. So how do we do on our picks? And there's not much else to talk about from week 2. That's how what kind of week it was. More of an indifferent week because it just wasn't, other than the things I mentioned, there wasn't a whole lot going on. How do we do on our picks for this week? Let's see. Let me make sure I look these up here. Right here. Week 2. All right. We have Bengals over Ravens. Okay, Bengals over Ravens. That's a win. Falcons over Panthers. That's a win. Packers over Vikings. That's going to be a loss because no, it's a tie because it's a tie. So we call it a tie. I think it's the first time in the Spotlight history that we had that during a pick. But Steelers over Chiefs. It's a loss. Redskins over Colts. That's a loss. Jags over Patriots. That's a win. So I went 1, 2, 3, 2, and 1. Three, 2, and 1 for week 2. So I'm 7, 4, and 1 through 2 weeks, which isn't bad. It's not terrible. Not terrible. Not terrible. Not at all. So, all right. So that's the story from week 2. Again, not as much to talk about in week 2. Just not as much. Now let's flip the script to week 3. Let's preview week 3 here. Because there are a couple of decent games on the board for week 3. Okay, let's see what we got here. My schedule pulls up. Right here. All right, so Thursday Night Football this week will be 8:20 p.m. Eastern game at NFL Network. Jets at Browns. That becomes an interesting game because of the way Cleveland's playing and the way the Jets played last week. So that's an interesting game. And here's your Sunday slate. I'll give you the slate, and then we'll make our picks. And should be a fairly eventful week 3, I think. They've done a good job of spreading out some of these good games so far. So every week there's a few good ones. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern window. Here's the 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern window. Here are your games. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern on Fox. Saints at Falcons. So that should be good. NFC South getting all their big individual matchups out of the way, it looks like. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern on Fox from Kansas City. You got the 49ers at the Chiefs. That should be interesting. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern on CBS. Raiders at Dolphins. Dolphins are 2-0, shockingly. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern on CBS. Bills at Vikings. Should be easy for the Vikings. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern on Fox. Colts at Eagles. Interesting game. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern on Fox. Packers at Redskins. Interesting game. Also 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern on CBS. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern on CBS. Titans at Jaguars. Also 1 o'clock Eastern on CBS, the Broncos at the Ravens. And then we also have the last 1 o'clock game, 1 o'clock Eastern game on Fox, Giants at the Texans. So a lot of interesting games that 1 o'clock window. Here's your 4 o'clock window. 4:05 p.m. Eastern on CBS, Chargers at Rams. 4:25 p.m. Eastern on Fox, Bears at Cardinals. 4:25 p.m. Eastern on Fox, Cowboys at Seahawks. And then your Sunday night game, Patriots at the Lions, 8:20 p.m. Eastern NBC. Monday night game, 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, Steelers at Buccaneers. That game now is interesting given how the Bucs have played and also given how the Steelers have played. So some interesting games to pick. I think the Sunday night game is going to be terrible. I know the Lions played better in week 2, but boy, against the Patriots, I don't know. But all right, so let's make some picks right now. First game I'm going to pick. Let's do the Saints and the Falcons. That's the easy one to pick. The Saints, I don't think have played very well so far this year. I really don't. They played a little bit better last week, but I'm not really liking the way they're playing, even though I thought they'd be one of those Super Bowl teams, potential Super Bowl teams. I'm not really liking the way they're playing. Atlanta, I think, has played much better, and they played even better in week 2 versus week 1. They've also played better competition. So and they're at home as well. So I'm picking Atlanta over the Saints. That's the first pick. Second pick, Colts at Eagles. I think this game's going to be closer than people think. The Colts offense has been really, really good. And even though I thought that, their defense wasn't as great as it appeared to look last week, I still think they made some strides. I think they'll stay in it with the Eagles. I think this will be a close game. I like the Eagles to win, but I think this could be a pretty close game. So Eagles over Colts. That game. Let's see what else I'm going to pick here. Bengals, Panthers. I actually like Cincinnati. I think Carolina's going to keep this close, and they're going to make it an ugly type of game. But Bengals don't mind playing ugly. They don't mind that. And sometimes, in some cases, they actually plays better to them. So, I know it's in Carolina, but Carolina's kind of back in that where they were a couple years ago. They like to play the tough luck loser a little bit. And I just don't know if they have enough offense, even though I expect them to hold down the Panthers. Hold down the Bengals, I should say. I don't know if they have enough offense to even overcome a lower scoring type Bengals performance. So I like the Bengals over the Panthers on Sunday. Let's see what else we got here. Broncos are 2-0, Ravens. Giants, Texans, that's an interesting game. Both these teams have underachieved in my mind. Both these teams haven't played very well. Really, to me, what it comes down to is, can Deshaun Watson wake up and have a great performance? If he does, I think this ends up being a blowout in favor of the Texans. If it doesn't, I think this stays close. I think the Giants eke out a win. I don't like the way Deshaun Watson's playing. I don't. And I think the Giants have enough offense to get by on the Texans defense. I like the Giants to beat the Texans on Sunday. All right, we need 2 more picks. We're going to pick here. I'll pick the Monday night game. Steelers, Buccaneers. I'm going to pick the Bucs. I like the way Fitzpatrick is playing. I do not like the way the Steelers playing, particularly their defense. They're on the road. Tampa's tough to be at home. They like to upset teams at home. They played much better. They have played much better, and the Steelers don't look like they're all there. With all these distractions now, with Antonio Brown, I don't like where they're at right now. So I like the Bucs over the Steelers on Monday Night Football. And one more pick make here. What game am I going to pick? Broncos, Ravens, Packers, Redskins. Well, let's pick Thursday Night Football. Jets, Broncos. I think that's going to be close. I'm picking the Jets, but boy, I would not be the least bit surprised if the Browns found a way to win that game. Just based on the way that the Jets played in week 2, and the way Cleveland has played, and the biggest problem for Cleveland was their kicker. They got rid of him. They made a change there. So I think the Browns are going to keep this close. I think I'm picking the Jets to win, but boy, that game scares me a little bit. Definitely scares me a little bit. So, all right, so some interesting picks. I try to go out on a limb and pick different games. All right, so here's my picks for week 3. Falcons over Saints, Eagles over Colts, Bengals over Panthers, Giants over Texans, Bucs over Steelers, Jets over Browns. And there's a couple other good games on the board too. Like I said, 49ers, Chiefs is interesting. I still pick the Chiefs too based on the way they're playing, but that's interesting. Raiders, Dolphins, even interesting. I'd probably favor the Dolphins there based on the way that these teams have played. Packers, Redskins, probably Green Bay win, but that should be a good close game. And Broncos, Ravens even should be a good game. And either one of those teams could win that. So some good games on the board for Sunday, intriguing games. So should be a good. I think it'll be a good day of football, and hopefully the quality go. Some of these teams improve their, the ones that kind of drop back in week 2, come back up to weeks and in week 3, so that the quality of play can go back up to where it was in week 1. Because week 1 wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. At week 3, you hope we want it to be at that. We're at that week 1 level, not really at week 2 level. But we'll see how that goes. So some interesting games, some intriguing games, some intriguing matches. Should be a good Sunday. Really should. A couple little things to talk about outside of the games themselves. The Patriots made a big trade yesterday with the Browns to get Gordon from there, their best receiver, Josh Gordon, from there. Look, Cleveland just didn't want him anymore. That's the way it was. He now goes to New England. He'll, and anything that New England doesn't want to be, distractions, or, if New England knows how to handle, outside noise. They know how to get their players to, keep it out, and they just know how to keep distractions away. So I think he'll be a good fit in New England. I think he'll do well for them. And if you're the rest of the AFC, even the NFC, you hate the fact this guy went to New England, because he's gonna make them. I mean, look, New England by December, New England's gonna be already in Super Bowl form anyway. But now you've given him a talent for many, many years to come, and he's good, and he's going to make them a lot better. That's scary. That's scary. So you have that, and then you have this talk about Antonio Brown wanting to be traded. Who knows? Now they're saying the Steelers saying he doesn't. So again, added distraction there. It's been a mess in Pittsburgh this year, just a downright mess. It's crazy. Crazy what's going down in Pittsburgh this year. Oh, okay. And the last thing, the Clay Matthews hit. I'm going to be very brief about this because enough people are ranting about this. That'd be one of the most ridiculous calls. And I know the league and the protocol and all the new rules, and I know there's going to be. The league is standing by the call that was a dirty play. That was not a dirty play. Okay? He didn't go low. He didn't do anything stupid. He went everything he looked like he did was within the rules. To say, oh, he's driving him into the ground, that's excessive. No, that's just circumstantial. Okay, to me, you can't make that call. At what point? Eventually, this could be playing flag football. I understand that we're worried about player safety. I'm all for player safety. I don't have an issue with that. But what Clay Matthews did, there was nothing wrong with that. Nothing. And it's a shame that game had a turn on that, because I think Green Bay probably would have won if that call doesn't. Man, I'm not even speaking on this from a Green Bay as a Green Bay fan. I'm just saying as a fan of the game, I don't like I don't like that call. I don't like where this is all going. I feel like you're taking the game away. It's starting to get way too excessive in what you're trying to get these guys. These guys are in the heat of a battle. They're in the heat of a game. They can't be thinking about, well, now I can't go high. Well, now I can't drive the guy on the ground. Like, you can't think like that when you're trying to play the game. We got to discourage excessive hits, destructive hits. Yes, absolutely. But a hit like Clay Matthews, saying, oh, he drives him into the ground. No, that hit is perfectly fine. It's part of the game. It's playing defense. Let these guys play defense. Let them. Because you can't have what happened. You can't make that call. Come on. And you can't have rules that say that call is right. I'm sorry, you can't. You can't. This is football. Again, I'm all for player safety. Avoiding helmet to helmet and all this stuff. But when a guy just tackles the guy, and because he happened to drive him into the ground because he was at force, you're going to call this, what, you're going to call a penalty? Dumb. Terrible call. And probably cost Green Bay the game. But that's not what it's about. It's about what it means for the whole league, about the whole game. And what it means is that with each and every passing year of every new rule they pass. And again, I know about player safety. I'm all for it. But you're sacrificing too much of the game. Eventually, the game's not even going to feel. It's not even going to feel like the same game. It already doesn't. It's got to stop somewhere. I just can't believe they made that call. I really couldn't. But crazy. But enough people have spoken about it. I just wanted to say my piece and move on from it. So, all right. So that's all the NFL stuff we had to get to. Now let's jump into some college football. And as I've said in the last 3 weeks since the season started, early season, really, it's until the first playoff rankings come out in late October. It takes a while for the season to get going. There really isn't a whole lot of big stuff going on. I mean, yeah, you get maybe 1 or 2 good games a week, but like the big storylines and things get really compelling come late October once the first playoff rankings go. Now, look, there was some big stuff that happened. For in our neck of the woods, if you're a Syracuse fan, you love the fact they beat Florida State and they're now 3-0 in college football, which they haven't done since I think 1991. They're off to a good start. We'll see where it goes. But I think it says more about Florida State than it does about Syracuse. Florida State's played terrible football through 3 weeks. Terrible football. They gotta get, they thought they could do well without Jimbo Fisher. Well, they're wrong. They gotta get this straightened out. They're not gonna make anything. So that was one of the more interesting highlights from last weekend. But outside of that, if you look at week 3, not much else happened. All the big teams won. Ohio State beat TCU. That was supposed to be one of the better games weekend. Ended up being a 40-28 win. BYU beat Wisconsin. That's an upset. That's probably one of that's LSU beat Auburn. So those two good upsets. LSU Auburn was a great game, by the way. If you didn't watch it, Wisconsin BYU was too, but it was a little more. Didn't have the same drama. But then again, that's SEC football versus so that's why LSU Auburn with the history had a little bit more going for it. But 2 great games there and 2 big upsets there, I think. Notre Dame almost got upset by Vanderbilt, which a lot of people thought would happen. Let's see what else. Oklahoma State beat Boise State in a good game. Texas beats USC in another great game in a rematch of their rivalry. San Diego State beats Arizona State. So yeah, a couple big upsets, but again, that's kind of what you get in early season. A couple upsets, a couple good games, and that's kind of what it is. And as you look at week 4, you're getting further into conference play. There's a couple good games on the board, but again, not until late October when the playoff rankings come out do things start to pick up. Georgia, Missouri on Saturday is not too bad of a game. Texas A&M, Alabama at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Not a bad game there. Let's see. Stanford, Oregon's a great game on Saturday night. That one's also on. Well, that one's on ABC. Wisconsin looked to rebound off a loss. Looked to rebound off a loss in Iowa, where they'll play the 3-0 Iowa Hawkeyes. We'll see what happens there. That should be an interesting game because Iowa could potentially upset Wisconsin again. And you got Arizona State, Washington, which isn't a bad game on ESPN. Not a bad game. So a couple good games. Pardon me. Not a lot, but a couple interesting games, and we'll see what happens. Again, it's still early. It's really once you get to about week 7 that things start to pick up, and then you get playoff rankings every week, and the games take on a different meaning. So, obviously, a lot of talk this week has been about Urban Meyer, which we talked about a few weeks ago. I don't think he's really helping himself. Everything he says seems to make things a little bit worse. He probably should have just owned up to instead of trying to be like, well, I people misunderstood me, or I misunderstood, or all that stuff. He should just come out with it and be like, you know what? I didn't do enough. I apologize. I will do anything that I can do, anything the university wants me to do, anything, I'll do anything I can to mend these fences. That's what he needs to do. But he ain't doing that. Instead, he's digging the hole deeper and he's making things harder for himself. And but it sucks because this is one of the greatest coaches in college football history, and his legacy is being tarnished. And that's not why it sucked. It sucked because an innocent woman got domestically abused. That's the biggest reason it sucks. But also, it does suck that Urban's career is going to be whenever you think about Urban Meyer, you're going to think about this stuff now. And I always hate when that happens to legends and greats. I hate that because it does take away from their legacies, and it should. It's part of punishment. So Urban Meyer will return to Ohio State this week. He'll be on the sideline, so we'll see how all that goes. But obviously, still more tough times way ahead for Urban Meyer because I don't think this thing's going to go away. I don't think he's done himself any favors. If he had handled himself the right way, I think it could have gone away and he could have rehabbed his image. But he's not handling it the right way. He isn't. And that's going to come back to bite him. It really is. It really is. So, obviously, Urban Meyer's been a big source of discussion this week. And, it's been probably the big source of discussion in college football because, again, early season college football, not a whole lot going on. I also have a few games here and there. So, all right, that's the story in football. I know that's not a lot, but hey, like I said, college football, until playoff rankings come out, it's tough. It's swim pickings. But, in NFL, it was, while there were some things to talk about, it was a quieter week, I think, than at least week one was. So that's the football. We have baseball to talk about, and we should be talking about baseball. It's September 18th. We're a couple weeks away from the end of the season. In the playoffs and the wild card game and all that good stuff. So most teams are down to 13 games or less. The Yankees and the Red Sox met again tonight for the first time since I think late July. The division is not on the line like we all thought it would, but still the games matter, particularly for the Yankees who are trying to hold on to home field. They had their chance over the last week to pick up some games, but they didn't. They lost 2 out of 3 to Toronto, which did not help matters. But tonight they beat Boston 3-2, which is going to help them. Right now, Oakland's up 4-1 on the Angels. So if Oakland wins and the Yankees win, then nothing's changes. The Yankees will still be a game and a half up for that first wild card. So not much has changed in the last week, other than Tampa's continued their push. They're again continuing to play good baseball. It's interesting because on paper you really look at this like you have to rule them out, but they just keep winning. I mean, if you look at where they are right now, I'm trying to pull up the wild card standings. Yeah, they're 6 back. They're 6 back of Oakland. They're 6 back. Now, I think Buster Olney was right. If they had an extra couple games, maybe like 10, 15 games, they probably would win, get into the wild card. It's crazy. Tampa, Kevin Cash is the manager of the year. He's done great. Seattle's probably out of it at this point, 7.5 back, but but there's still, I guess if we're saying Tampa's in striking distance at 6, maybe we say the same thing about Seattle. In the NL, it's a little bit of a different story. Milwaukee leads the first wild card by 2 games over St. Louis, who leads the second wild card by 1 game over the Rockies, 5.5 games over the Diamondbacks, 6 over the Phillies, and the Pirates and the Nationals still hanging around at 7. Need a lot to happen, though. Like I said, if you're not 5, I think if you're not 3 or less, you're in trouble, but you have to be at least 5 or less. So I don't see anybody above 5 games making it. I think it's going to come down to, I feel pretty secure in saying that probably 3 NL Central teams are going to get in. The Cubs, the Brewers, and the Cardinals. And then I think that last spot will go to probably an NL West team, either the Rockies or the Diamondbacks. But it'll be interesting. So the NL wild card is still very much up for grabs. That'll be a race that goes down to the wire divisionally. Division-wise, again, Yankee Red Sox division race over. Red Sox win one of these next 2 games, and they clinch. Cleveland has clinched. They're set. That division race is over. And NL West is pretty much over, even though Oakland's only up 4.5 games. I mean, Houston only up 4.5 games. I still think that's pretty much over. So that race doesn't appear to be anything worth noting. And in the NL, I think the Braves have it in the bag. They're 5.5 up on the Phillies, 6.5 up on the Nationals. I think the Braves are pretty much set. Again, it's possible to make that up, but not very probable. The Cubs have a 3-game lead on the Brewers and a 5-game lead on the Cardinals in the NL Central. So Cubs looking good there. And the NL West, the Dodgers now lead that division by a half game over the Rockies and 5 games on the Diamondbacks. That's very much a race out west. But the other two divisional races, Central and East, look to be settled, as does the AL races, all but maybe the AL West. But again, Houston's up 4.5 there, so you'd like to think that one's over. So really, it comes down to the NL West and the wild card for both leagues. That's really the only race to have. Half of September for most of these races had some drama to them, and hopefully the races that are still going on will have some drama over these next 2 weeks, so that the season comes to a nice dramatic end and gets some good momentum building into the playoffs. Here are some of your scores for games that are appropriate to the playoff hunt tonight. I already mentioned that the Yankees beat the Red Sox 3-2. That Oakland was beating the Angels. They're beating the Angels 4-1 in the top of the 5th. That'll be an interesting game. Note, the Cubs and the Diamondbacks are playing right now. They're going to the 6th. Cubs up 9-1 as Arizona continues to fade. Colorado and the LA Dodgers are tied at 2 in the bottom of the 5th. Philly up 5-2 on the Mets, who just seem to be playing much better baseball over the last month and seem to have the Phillies number. Let's see. Pittsburgh beats Kansas City 2-1 in 11. Cleveland beats the White Sox 5-3. Nationals beat the Marlins 4-2. Cardinals beat the Braves 8-1. Cincinnati beats the Brewers 3-1, and Tampa Bay beats Texas 4-0 as they continue their winning ways. And Houston up 7-0 on the fading Seattle Mariners. So some interesting games of note tonight. So, with 12, 13 games, at least we have a couple races, like I said, that are still relatively interesting and compelling. Hopefully they'll stay that way over the last week. So we have something to watch those last games for. Otherwise, this becomes about getting everything ready for the wild card games and then, of course, the divisional series after that fact. So, what was I going to say? So, yeah. So, not much has changed over the last week other than, like I said, the Mariners kind of further solidifying that they're out of it. A couple teams are still hanging around longer than I felt, like the Nationals and the Pirates. But other than that, nothing big or shattering happened in the last week. Aaron Judge did come back to the lineup tonight. He had been activated last Friday. He was playing defense, base running, but tonight he was back in the lineup. He was hitless, but his at-bats were good, so it's only a matter of time before he gets it going again, probably. We'll see. I mean, that's the only the jury's. I mean, look, tonight I thought his at bats looked very good. He looked like he didn't have trouble with his timing. What's going to be interesting to me is to see if he has that same power right now, because sometimes they say that power takes a while to come back. Whether he has it back or not, we'll see when he hits his first home run or first deep drive, and we'll see where it goes, and that might give us an idea and how he feels as well. Might give us an idea of where he's at in his recovery. So that's been a big source of news today is Judge's return. So, yeah, baseball season now, again, probably down to the last dozen or so games. That's it. If that's not the stretch run, I don't know what is. We'll see if some of these races that I mentioned that are still relatively compelling continue to be over this last week and a half or so. So I know I kind of rushed through that, and I know that we didn't really talk a whole lot about anything really, baseball, college football. But again, this wasn't a lot to say out of the NFL in week 2 and about week 3, and there wasn't a lot in college football. Never is a time here in baseball. We're at that point now where I think we're just ready for the playoffs to start, because some of these races are starting to wind down, and there's only a few left. And those few are to say, and don't really, not much you can say about them. And then we'll see where we're going to go over the next week and see if some of these races are close as you head into the final week of the regular season. Because they are, then there's drama aplenty. And then you have the wild card games, and it makes sometimes for a logistical nightmare, but also makes things relatively interesting. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with some of these races over the next week to see where they're at on the last weekend of the season. So I told y'all we didn't have a lot. And there wasn't a lot to talk about in football, and there wasn't a lot to talk about in baseball. We didn't have a lot, and that's why we're done. Which is probably a good thing because it is late, and so like I said, if we're gonna have a late show, this is the night to do it. So. All right, so with that being said, we are done for tonight. As always, the show might be over. It's not mean you have to stop interacting, contributing to our show. Continue to have your voice heard. Send us your feedback, your questions about the show, the scheduling of the shows, topic ideas, or breaking news items related to sports, entertainment, or wrestling that you want us to cover. Questions about the show and the scheduling of the show. Any of these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember, use the hashtag itspotlight411 for any single tweet we got on our show. And again, follow us on Facebook. Just search In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook and make sure that you like our fan page once you are on it so you can follow us and interact with us and all that good stuff. Again, follow us on social media for the latest updates about the show when it comes to schedule delays and postponements. I did not post about the postponement and delay tonight. I apologize for that. Things just came up quick, but normally I would do that, except for a few exceptions. But I also post random thoughts on our social media as well, questions, stuff like that. So to have access to all that and know what's going on with the show and more, make sure that you follow us on social media. Follow us on Twitter at itspotlight411. Remember, use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything to tweet about our show. And again, find us on Facebook to search In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and make sure that you like our fan page so you can follow us. There are two ways to keep up the show and look back at classic episodes. You can either stream us anytime on Google Plus and YouTube. Just search In the Spotlight 411 on both those sites. When you do, you'll be taking our show pages on both sites. We'll have access to every episode we ever produced for Google Plus and YouTube. That's every episode from October 2015, all of tonight's current episode. All those episodes are available for you to stream anytime you want. So just head over to Google Plus and YouTube, search In the Spotlight 411, and go ahead and stream those episodes if you're interested. If streaming's not your thing, maybe prefer to listen to us on the go or just listen to us in general. Maybe you're interested in older episodes of the show. Maybe you missed a part of an episode, want to check out an episode again. Maybe you're a long-time fan, want to check out an episode from 4 or 5 years ago, or a new fan, want to check out an episode that old for the first time, or just keep up with current episodes. If any of that applies to you, check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes, to search In the Spotlight 411. And when you do, you'll be taken to our show pages on both sites, where you'll have access to every episode we ever produced in nearly 8 years from doing the show. So it's every episode from our original Blog Talk Radio run from October 2010 to January 2011. All of our talk show episodes from January 2011, all the way up to mid-October 2015. All of our Google Plus and YouTube episodes from mid-October 2015, all the way up to tonight's current episode. All those episodes transferred into audio format for your convenience. Every episode listed from the most current, that being tonight, all the way to the oldest, way back in October 2010. Again, all in audio format for your convenience, so you can listen to them anytime you want. So if you'd like to do that, head over to Podbean and iTunes to search In the Spotlight 411. Again, Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, your ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. Again, to search for In the Spotlight 411. Again, to search for In the Spotlight 411. All right, I've been doing this since it hasn't been here, but I'm going to continue to do it. Shout out again to Mike, my co-host. He is still not back yet. Hopefully he'll be back in the coming weeks. We wish him well. Hope everything's going well for him. Pat myself on the back for another great show. Thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. To those that will be watching, listening to this later, thank you to you as well. Thank you for your patience and understanding tonight with the late start. And also because we didn't have a lot tonight. If you're going to have a late kind of a show that runs later and you have to kind of cut a little bit, you're better off having this kind of show because, there wasn't a lot to talk about. Even though we had a couple of things to get through, there just wasn't a lot. And my allergies being the way they are and it being late, it makes sense to do this as quick as possible. So, a lot of the stuff we'll probably talk about this again next week anyway. So, but thank you again for your patience and understanding. As always, we do appreciate it. And that is it for tonight. Again, we have a second show this week, this Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, and it should be at 10 o'clock Eastern time. It will not be late again, folks. It should not be. So rest assured, this Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, that's September the 20th, we'll talk wrestling, Raw, SmackDown, Hell in a Cell, any other wrestling stuff we have to get to. We'll talk the box office beat. We'll do a fall TV preview, all that. Also present the TV award statistics, all that and more this Thursday. And again, I'll let you know about what's coming up in the future of the show when we start the new format and stuff, probably on Thursday, but if not Thursday, next week. But if I talk about next week, that means that next week we're not starting a new format. That waits to the week after, more than likely. But we'll get into all that on Thursday and talk about all that good stuff. So, all right. So with that being said, again, you know what? We moved through it. We didn't have a lot to talk about, but we did it, and it was good. So that's all that matters. So, all right. So with that being said, that's it for tonight. I hope you have a great rest of your night, a great Wednesday, and a great Thursday. See you back here, broadcasting, streaming live on YouTube at sorry, not 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock from Eastern Time. This Thursday, September the 20th. Again, this Thursday, September 20th at 9 o'clock from Eastern Time. That is our next show. Until then, have a good night, everybody.